Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I'm Taylor Gonzalez, and my guest today voices Gus in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and 3, and most recently is the voice of Namor in Marvel Rivals. I'm so excited to welcome Daniel Marin. How are you doing today?
Hey, Taylor, I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. One thing that's not here that we were just talking about before we started recording is your facial hair. How does it feel?
It feels so weird to me. Sometimes I have to shave for work, and it's one of my biggest like pet peeves. I hate the way I look. But it'll grow back. So hopefully this video gets a lot of views, but they're looking at your face.
Oh my gosh. People are going to think I interviewed an imposter. They're going to be like, no, we're not used to
Yeah.
this look.
No, it's me. Like the tide. Namor always rises again.
Oh my gosh, I love her performance in Marvel Rivals. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you about how you got your start as a voice actor.
Yeah, it's weird, man, because I get asked a lot of times like for advice on how to get into voice acting, and for me it was such like a weird serendipitous, there's no like rules that I followed or anything. I was with a commercial agency on camera, and I was friends with the assistant. He moved over to voiceovers, and he said, "Hey, man, I have this audition for you." I was like, "I've never done voiceovers. I don't know what I'm doing." He's like, "Just come over. We'll do it after hours." And we did, and I booked that job, and it was to be the voice of a really big fast food company. Um, so I did that for 11 years, and I sort of just learned on the job. I was like, I pretended I knew what I was doing. Went in there, I asked as many questions as I could to like learn, and then that was kind of it. And then I started getting more and more opportunities. And eventually I ended up moving to the agency that I'm with currently. And they started sending me out for a lot of video games and that kind of stuff. So it was just sort of not part of my trajectory necessarily of my plan, but it worked out and here we are. So it's one of the best things. And it's funny because when I moved to LA, I came from like acting school and I was like, I'm a real actor. I'm not going to do voiceovers, commercials, or anything in Spanish. And I make a living doing it. So it's one of these things where like the assets that you have are what's going to get you work, Trying to fit a mold of what they are looking for is not the right path. But yeah, that was kind of it. And then yeah, with the video games, they were all just like auditions that came, from my agent.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, and I think that right there is perfect advice of not trying to fit a mold and using the assets that you do have. And yeah, it's really working for you. So that's incredible that when I went through and said Call of Duty and now Marvel Rivals, very exciting. And I can't get enough of Marvel Rivals. Like literally, when I'm done editing this video, I'm gonna play. And I've been playing this more the last couple days
Let's go.
to do research. That's what I tell my boyfriend. I'm like, oh, I'm playing video games for research. But I love playing as him and I love using the Monstro turrets and then kind of like hiding behind them. Do you have any kind of like tips or tricks to playing as him?
Yeah, okay, so this is really funny. I'm very lucky. I feel very lucky that I get to voice him because I love his character so much. I don't know how to play anybody else. I have 125 hours on Namor and like 48 minutes on somebody else because they stole Namor from me in that game. Like, so I wouldn't say I'm the best Namor, but I've definitely gotten to, understand him a little more. I think you need to have a Luna on your team. I think that's pretty crucial. But even not having her, he's pretty good. I like one of the things that I learned to do is when I'm like fight because I play like a tank essentially. I just push, 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 push. And so when I'm shooting at somebody, I like to throw one of the turrets behind them so that the enemy's being shot from both directions. He's got to pick me or the turret, and inevitably he's going to go down. I always get yelled at by my stream, my chat. They're like, put the turret up top. I'm like, I would love to do that, but I'm in the middle of a battle, and this guy's gonna get me if I don't do anything. So that's kind of like my game style. It's just like try to push as hard as I can, distract them while the other team is doing the rest of the stuff. I forget the objective every single time, and I'm awful at that. But yeah, that's kind of it. And I think like making sure that you're like I love getting flyers. So like if Iron Man's in the game, I'm like, oh yeah, he's mine. I don't even use the turrets for them. I just try to like hit him with the spear as much as I can. It's like it's my favorite thing. So yeah, tips, get a Luna and try to use your octopuses to your advantage to like sort of triangulate where the enemy is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's really good advice because when I play as him, I kind of put the turrets in front of me and I kind of hang out behind them, but to put them on the other side of the enemy, I'm gonna try
Yeah,
that when I play later.
right. It's a pretty good idea, and it's been working because yeah, like it makes them have to either turn around, especially if it's like strange with a big shield or something.
Uh,
You know, you're shooting the shield, nothing's happening, but the turret's hitting him from the back. So it's pretty great because then he's got to turn and then he's open for a shot.
all right. So if people want to check out your streams, where can people go to watch you stream?
I'm on Twitch, and that's the only place that I stream currently. It's the same. It's my name as my social medias is Danger Marin. I didn't set out to be a streamer. When I was in Call of Duty, everybody would be like, "You should stream because you're the character." But I would get really mad during Call of Duty, and I was like, nobody needs to see me getting mad. When Rivals came out, I love the beta so much that I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try to stream. So I set up a little thing. I started streaming. I think I had 8 viewers. Um, it was just like a fun little thing. And
Yeah.
then when the game came out, everybody's like, you should stream. You should definitely do it. Push it. So I started doing it as like a fun thing for me, and it's grown in a way that I'm like blown away by it because it's really fun, and something that I'm really trying hard is to create like a positive community, and like an inclusive community where there's no toxicity, we don't rage at each other, we just play to have fun because that's what the game should be. I think the game is a really fun thing. It's an escape from the craziness that we're living in the world. um, and I try to be open to everybody coming in. The majority of my viewers are women, and they tell me, we just feel like it's a safe space. We don't get yelled at. We don't get all these like things. It's really hard. I've noticed a lot of the female gamers get like destroyed by teammates. That it's like, for what reason? They
Yeah.
get cast out, and we're all just here to have fun.
Mhm.
Nobody should be an expert at this game yet. It's 2 months old. Like
Yeah.
we're all just trying. So that's part of it. Like if I notice any sort of like toxicity or negative behavior, I try to nip it right away because I think we need more spaces where we can all just be there for positive fun.
Mhm.
And so it's turned into a little fun community for me. And personally, like I feel the love. I feel like it gets me through hard times, not to get sappy, but my dad passed away 2 months ago. And instead of like turning into this sort of like depression, I turned to my community and I've been uplifted. I laugh every game. So, if you're looking for that kind of fun, that's the place I would recommend come checking out.
Oh, that's really sweet. That's great. Yeah, I would say I've been doing a lot of interviews for Marvel Rivals lately, and everyone I've interacted with is so nice and so friendly. And they actually gave me some good advice too, because when I started putting out these interviews, I would, for my thumbnail, just put the generic Marvel Rivals logo. And then someone commented and they're like, you know what, you should actually put the character instead of like the
Mm.
Marvel Rivals logo. And I was like, oh yeah, that's better. So now I've been, incorporating that and focusing more on the character and less on the game, and it's been helping. So I just feel like everyone I've interacted with has been really nice, really friendly, giving good advice. So yeah, I love the community that it's building as well.
I agree with you. When the game happened, I don't know who was in the cast, and we weren't allowed to even mention the game until they announced us at Comic-Con last year. And I was sitting in the audience and I look up and I see the cast. I'm like, oh my God. Like I am sitting with legends. And I also realized that I knew a few people from the cast that were my friends that I was like, I didn't know you were in the game, which is really funny. And so, I've told this story before on my stream a lot, but like I went up to Fred Tascatori, who plays the Hulk, and I was like, "Oh my God, Fred, can you sign my little pamphlet?" And he's like,
Oh,
"Yeah, Namor, I'll sign it for you." And he like signed it to Namor, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm such a such a
oh,
fool."
that's awesome.
So like I'm a fan of a lot of the cast, and then some of the other casts that I'm also a fan of, but I've become friends with, like Jordan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Somebody on my TikTok said, "Hey, Jordan Reynolds also streams, and you should say hi." And I went on his thing and I messaged him, and like now we're like really good friends. We talk almost
Oh,
every single day. We co-stream together sometimes. Um, it's I think what I've learned is that everybody in this cast is extremely talented, very nice, very open, very human. Jordan and I think we've bonded into this whole like trying to create a positive environment. And so, yeah, I agree with you that like people are just really nice in this cast. I don't know if most video games are this way, but the people that I've interacted with in this game has just been just lovely, honestly.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But getting back to Namor, I was looking up his powers.
Yeah.
So they include hydrokinesis, superhuman strength, and reflexes, aquatic telepathy and healing, flight, and is able to control oceanic creatures. So with that in mind, if you could have any of his powers in real
Ooh.
life, what power would you want to have?
Ooh. I mean, honestly, flight is really cool, but I'm actually kind of scared of the ocean. I'm scared of like like I hate walking in the water and feeling something on my foot. I'm always
Mhm.
like, ah! But if I could maybe be able to swim without like worrying about drowning and like explore the ocean, I think it'd be really cool.
Oh.
So maybe something along those lines of like just being able to like exist underwater. That'd be really cool. I don't know if I'd want to control the animals because that'd be kind of creepy.
Yeah, it'd
I
be
would
cool
hate
to
to have
talk
like
to
a,
them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, hey, octopus, please stay over there.
So when you signed on for this role, did you do any kind of research into the character's backstory? And if so, what kind of research did you do?
Yeah, so okay, so this is fascinating. When I got the audition, they don't tell us what the project is, right? It's like a code. I don't really even think it said Namor. I think it said like Prince of Atlantis or something. And the description sort of makes you think like, okay, it's a superhero, lives underwater, super strong. I think I can maybe figure this out. But I didn't know much about Namor. I think my experiences were from the MCU, Black Panther 2 movie, and then I had seen him every now and then. I knew he was like one of the very early on characters in comics. Um, but when I booked the job was like 7 months later after the audition, they were like, "Hey, they want you for the Marvel game." I was like, "What Marvel? What are you talking about? What did I do?" So they're like, "Yeah, you're playing Namor." I was like, "Oh my God!" So then I started buying comics as many as I could to like really understand him. Um, the first recording session, I had sort of just created this character that I wanted to do, and they were very open to what I had. But at that point, I still wasn't as familiar with his lore. I wish I would have done more, but I think the not knowing kind of helped me a little bit because I was able to like create something from nothing. I didn't want to compare him to other things. Like honestly, if I had auditioned for or gotten Iron Man or Spidey or something, I would have been so nervous to do it wrong because these are established things that the fans love. I'm very lucky that Namor didn't really have much to compare to. It was like my sort of creation. Um, and so that was really cool. But then I started reading a lot of the comics, and by the time we got to like recording lines with like Sue
Mhm.
Storm, and I was just like, yes, I know who these people are. I love this connection. And my interactions with Sue are super flirty because I kind of understood where that was coming from. And now I'm like, I have a stack of comics. My wife is like, what are you doing with all this?" Um, because I love learning more about him. I know that there's been like a series of comics that kind of made Namor this like monster. But it was, in my opinion, not the best writing because Namor is a guy who's actually misunderstood. He wants to rule his people peacefully. He wants to have a queen by his side, and every time he gets close, humans destroy his world and kill his wives, and he's like, you know, F you humans. So he becomes a villain out of, sort of necessity, in my opinion. And so I think, the more and more I learn about him, the more I'm like, he's just really cool. And he loves women so much. He like, he literally in this first appearance with the X-Men was trying to like, Magneto wanted to recruit him to the dark side. And Namor's like, yeah, all right, I'll be with you. And then Magneto dissed Scarlet Witch, and Namor goes, I will not ally myself with someone who talks to women this way, and then destroys Magneto's stuff and just like goes back into the ocean. And I was just like, that's a cool dude.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
stands up for what he believes is right. And so yeah, I've learned more and more. The more I learn, the more I'm like just so grateful that I get to voice him and be him because, I just think he's just really cool. Yeah.
yeah. No, he's an awesome character. What did you think about his appearance in Wakanda Forever?
I loved it. Honestly, I think Tenoch did an amazing job. I get
Mm.
asked all the time, like, would I want to do that? And I mean, yes, I would love to, but I don't think that I could replace him. He's amazing. Now, if they wanted to do a variant in an alternate universe and it's the Marvel Rivals characters, that'd be so cool, you know, like just like, oh, this is a different universe in the Marvel multiverse, and the characters are played by the voice actors of Marvel
Oh,
Rivals.
so cool. That'd be
That would be a
awesome.
dream.
Yeah, the other day I actually went back and I rewatched all the like trailers and promotional material leading up to the release of the game. And there was some really cool like cutscenes and some really cool animations. And I was like, man, this would be a cool like Disney Plus series in between seasons of the game just to,
Ah,
establish the backstory and why are we at Dracula's castle and why are we in New York? I think that'd be awesome. And just I know it would cost a lot to animate it all and, stretch it out to a series, but that would be so cool. You already have all the voice actors.
right.
You already have like the character models and the designs, and there is a storyline in the game for the season. So I just think Disney Plus, if you're watching this, you should
Yes,
definitely,
please, please,
yeah,
please, please make it happen. Honestly, it would be like a dream come true. I mean, it already is a dream come true to be able to voice him in the game. But like you said, it's like quips, you know, like you have like little battle lines. I think being able to create more of a character arc and story arc and all this stuff would be so amazing. And as a fan, I think you're right. It would be so cool to like have those like maybe do mini series in between seasons where we get to like continue the stories and also expand that universe. And how cool. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the idea of being able to do an animated show with these guys would be so
so
awesome.
cool.
I would just, yeah, yeah, I would love that.
I would love that. So Namor has some really fun lines in the game, and something that like I'm addicted to is just walking around our place, just like saying them while I'm like cleaning or vacuuming. And my boyfriend thinks I'm crazy, but the good thing is like he hears the game enough. He doesn't play, but he hears it enough to know what I'm doing, like and where it's coming
Right,
from.
right.
But like, so for example, our puppy who keeps trying to get my attention to play tennis, she her name is June. So I go around with her and I go, the June haunts you for Moon Knight. But
So,
then the last couple days I've been walking around and I've just been going, Denizens of the Deep. And I can't stop. Like it's just so addicting to say. What are some of your favorite lines to say in the game? And when you recorded them, how many different like iterations and different tones and inflections did you put on them?
oh man, that's a good question. I think my absolute favorite line of Namor's is typical air breather because it sort of informed me of who he is and how he sees humans. I based my personality of him on that line.
Mm.
So that was like a very special one. I love when he's like, drown them. Just like all these like super not cocky, but like arrogant of like, I am Namor. I am the best. You know, those lines are so fun for me to say. I love the interactions with Sue, where he's like, oh, Susan, you wound me. It's so like he has such a different personality when he's like in attack mode and in flirty mode. So I love those. One line that I love is oceans protect me, and
Mm.
I love it because I have a 2.5 year old daughter,
Oh,
and I was watching her through the monitor one day. She was in her room by herself, and I just hear her go, "Oceans protect
oh,
me." I was like, "Where do you even know this?" I must have been saying it around the house or something. It's really adorable. Um, and you know, in terms of recording, I think. It's so hard because sometimes I'm playing and I hear a line, I'm like, I don't remember that line. And people are like, how do you not remember it? You did it. And I was
yeah.
like, yeah, but we went through like 300 lines. And some of them, you know, a lot of the times when we're doing these things, is we give an ABC, sort of like three different variations. They'll either pick one that they like or be like, I like B, but let's do it again. And we'll do it a couple more times. Sometimes you do it one time and it's exactly what they were looking for. And they're like, moving on, let's not keep going. So those are the ones where I don't remember. We did it
Yeah.
one time, moved on to the other 300 that were there. And so, you know, each one has like a different iteration in terms of like, I like to give a little bit of variety, but I don't remember, for example, the lines that exist. I don't remember what else I did differently
All right. Mm.
because the one that they picked is the appropriate one, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like a hard thing because I try to give them as much variety, but also staying true to what I'm thinking in that
Mm.
moment. And they're very open with me. They're like, if you have any sort of suggestions how this line should be or what he's doing in this moment, go for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've done stuff and they're like, nope. But for the most part, they're like, yeah, that was great. I loved it. I hadn't thought of it that way. Let's do it. So yeah, it's just like a really fun thing. I love the lines. I say them all the time. And sometimes I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm in the car alone. And I'm like the tide, Namor always rises. And I'm like, stop. There's nobody here with you. You're not on stream. You're not anything. So it's funny. The lines are addicting. They really are.
Hmm. Well, I'm glad to know I'm not the only person. And this reminds me of something. I've been looking at all the memes. There's like the best memes, especially about Galacta, right? Is it Galacta?
Yeah.
Where it's like better stop that vehicle and it's like traffic, or it's like the new Fantastic Four trailer and it shows that retro car and then it says better stop that
Yeah,
vehicle.
yeah.
I saw one of a kid. I think he's like maybe like a high school age kid, and he's in a mall. Have you seen this? And he
No.
starts screaming at the top of his lungs, like all the
No.
alt lines, and
Yeah.
everyone's like looking at him and filming him. And I was like, that's number one, hilarious. But number two, it's like it is everyone, I think, is walking around their house saying these lines over and over. And it's just something I've never really seen before with the video game. So it's really, really interesting and really funny to me.
It is. I mean, it's one of these things where I think like the game was cast so well. And again, I'm not tooting my own horn. I think I'm very lucky to be part of it. But I think the game was cast so well that like each character has such a unique personality and and you can be a fan of any of them. Like I think the fact that they're real IP, it's not like Metal Boy,
Right.
for Iron Man or something. It's like
Mhm.
real characters. So like you can identify yourself with, you can have a main, you can do all these things with specific characters. So you get to hear them, but you also hear them in the game. So like people that hate my character still hear my lines and will message and be like, dude, I hate your character, but the acting is so good, like the voice lines are so good. I think something about this, the way this game came together, they did a really good job with everything. The attention to detail is great. I think the developers love this stuff. And so you can actually feel it. They're not just trying to make money by making a game that is popular. No, they're like they love it. And I'm friends with a couple of developers now and we'll go out to eat pizza or whatever, and I can feel it from them that this is exciting and fun and bigger than expected. And they're really like, oh, this thing we did because in comic XYZ in 1960 he said this thing, so that made me think, oh, I gotta put this. It's like they know everything about it. And so when they cast this game, I think they really like focused on that line is gonna be repeated everywhere. I even like go around sometimes, I'm like, dark child, and I'm like, that's not my line.
Yeah. Ah,
So it's
so
like, yeah,
good.
behold. It's funny, like, yeah, I have this joke where I say, like, oh, I can do a really good Iron Man impression. And it'll be like the tide, Iron Man always rises again. It's just like my own line with his name.
Oh my God.
Just silly. But I love, you're right. I love the lines. They're so good. They're so
Mhm.
like, they have so much umph to them. That's what it is.
Yeah. Are there any characters that are not in the game yet that you would like to see Namor interact with in the future when they add more characters?
Um, it's a loaded question because there are some that I really am excited about that I've already recorded lines with.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to say anything like that,
Mhm.
but I will say I would love to see in game, and this may or may not already be happening, so don't
Yeah.
quote me on anything. I'd love to see Nightcrawler. I think would be really awesome. Um, I think Silver Surfer would be really cool. I think Gambit, like a lot of the X-Men would be really neat.
Hmm.
Um, I think Deadpool would be really fun. I think, yeah, I mean, Emma Frost would be really fun. There's a lot of like interactions that I think Namor has had because Namor is like very lucky that he's been in so many different factions of the comics. He's been in the Illuminati, the X-Men, Avenger, what like all the things. So I get to interact with a lot of them, which is really cool. Um, so yeah, I think there's quite a few that I'm like, oh man, that would be so cool. I also would love to, by the way, Marvel, if you're listening, I would love to also maybe voice, I don't know, a Ghost Rider. But just
Oh
saying,
man.
if that's
You would
enough,
make a really good Ghost Rider. Now that you mention it, that'd be awesome.
right? Like the Robbie Reyes version, I think would be
Yeah.
cool. Oh man, hey, I'm here, available. Hook it up.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. And another thing that I love, I mentioned this, I think when I was talking to Eric, who voices Moon Knight, is I love that a lot of younger people are playing this game, and they're not the people who grew up like we did with comic books.
Yeah.
And so my hope and what I think is actually happening is these younger people are playing the game. They're like, oh, I love this character, but like I've never seen them in a movie or a show. And then maybe that's helping drive them to a comic book store where they can go and buy all the issues and learn about their backstory, learn about all the different character interactions they have. So I love that this game seems to be boosting, comic book sales and comic book interest because that's something I grew up with. And like my desk right here is full. It is full of comic books. So it's like it's so cool to see a younger generation that didn't grow up with it now getting exposed to it as well.
I mean, honestly, I think it's such a neat thing, and you're right on about that because it's no longer nerdy or geeky to be into comics. It's cool. There are there are, dads, kids, um, LGBTQ community, women, like everything is in this game. People are playing it, they're enjoying it. We're learning about characters that none of us knew before. Like Luna Snow, nobody knew. Everybody on the planet knows who that is now that, has seen the game. Even Namor, like now he's a character that people are like, oh yeah, I know that guy. That's the, they'll say like that's the Aquaman. And I'm like, listen, first of all, he was here first, and but like we're learning about characters that we didn't know about before, and now it's exciting and cool. And I think you're right on in that like we're gonna start seeing more and more versions of these characters. Um, it's funny. I went to one of the comic stores here in LA to get comics on Namor, and I was like, "Hey, listen, man, I voice Namor in this game called Marvel Rivals, and I'd love to read more about him." And I saw these 10-year-olds like running,
Oh,
and then their dad comes. He's like, "Hey, man, listen, my kids love this game. Do you mind saying hi?" And I was like, "Of course." And I went over. I'm like, "Hey, those who oppose me shall be left to drown in my wake." And the kids are like, and they were like screaming, going like, "Oh my God, I made no more! How cool!"
oh,
And I was just like, "What a neat experience!" These, kids are 10. They could be playing anything else, and they're here playing this video game that is just extremely fun. I mean, honestly, like it is putting comics in a new sort of realm. At least maybe it's just my world, but like my entire social media feed is this game.
it is.
Every algorithm that I see is this game. I see people talking about it in the street. And I've gotten to the point where like I stopped saying, "Hey, I'm in this game," because I'm really excited and I want to be like, "Oh my God, I'm in this game too." Like how cool. But then it gets a little, kind of crazy. So I think you're right. I think it's putting comics in a whole new thing. I hope. By the way, are you gonna get the Marvel Rivals print comic?
Oh, yeah, I gotta get on this because my friend also does comic book covers, and I didn't know this because I haven't seen him in a little bit. He just announced that he's doing Squirrel Girl, like a cover of Squirrel Girl. So I gotta get on that one too because I play as Squirrel Girl so much. She's so addicted to play as, especially when you can like jump and then throw the acorns. Oh my God. So I gotta get on these comic books because I need to add them to my collection.
I mean, I'm really excited for it. I think it's really cool. I think the artwork is also really neat.
Yeah.
And it's just, one more thing of like interweaving more stuff to get these characters more recognition, I guess.
Mhm.
So
Before we go, I have a question.
yeah.
Is that a fish tank behind you?
It is.
I
It
love that. Namor has a fish tank. That's awesome.
That's really funny. Yeah, I have a little beta fish and then four tetras, one shrimp, and a snail,
A
and they all
shrimp?
get
That's
along.
awesome.
Yeah, my
They're
shrimp,
all in there?
they're all in there. They
Oh
all
my
get
God.
along. My shrimp's name is Shrimps Elysee. And
Oh.
yeah, I have a 5-year-old son, and together we put it, in there. And it's been thriving. It's been great. And it's funny because yeah, the more one day I couldn't find my snail and I was losing my mind. And I was in the middle of a stream playing with some friends, and I was like, "Where is my snail?" I took the place apart and I was like crying. Somebody animated this thing of Namor looking for his snail. And
That's hilarious.
it was so funny. the thing was inside of a rock upside down. I was like, you little monster.
Oh my God. I love that you have a fish tank. That like just completes everything. That's so
That's so
cool.
funny.
Oh my gosh. Well, Daniel, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to be here. Where would be a good place if people want to follow you, keep up with, when you're going to stream and any appearances that you might be making?
Yeah, thank you. My TikTok, I'm very active on. I'm on Instagram and my Twitch. They all have the same name, Danger Marin. Um, in the LA area, I'm doing a couple of event signings soon. We have one April 12th in Burbank, and that's on my social medias also if you want to look at that. I'm doing a few cons coming up. Um, you know what? I haven't told anybody, but I can tell you I'll be at WonderCon
Ooh,
March 30th in a panel. And that's I haven't told anybody that. That's exclusive. It hasn't even been completely
awesome.
announced. So there you go. Taylor, honestly, you've been such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
I'd love to play a game with you sometime because you seem like a really nice guy.
Oh, thank you so much. And what I was thinking is you, me, and Jordan are all kind of like in the same area. We should totally just go out for drinks sometime, honestly, and just hang
Absolutely,
out.
I'm
I think
down.
that'd be so fun. But thank
100%.
you again so much. I really appreciate your time, and this was so fun.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget to protect your king.